Hi guys, this is Dr. Aeronautics and welcome back to another Norsden Land to Neso, actually the first update. I know what you're thinking, when is he going to get another episode out? Is this a full episode? No, unfortunately it's not a full episode. Um, I'm mainly doing this update because school is getting ridiculously busy, and unlike it was before when I had no time, well, now I actually had time, but I'm too burnt out on my schoolwork to actually focus on flying a spacecraft in the simulator. It's kind of really irritating, but the only thing I can do right now is stupid videos, and stupid videos are boring because they don't make you think at all. So I'm going to update you guys on a few things that I'm doing, mainly because I feel like you few followers who actually watch my videos deserve better than just being like 2 months, when is he going to upload a new video. Can you believe it's been so long that I actually had to, I couldn't find Bandicam on my start menu. I actually had to go through all programs to get to it. It's been that long. But anyway, I wanted to give you guys an update, and also new followers will probably like that as well. Okay, so despite the fact that we haven't been starting off the surf program, which we wanted to, that's basically the Gemini analog. It's really easy, but it just gives you an idea of ridiculously how busy I am. I'm lucky I actually got this weekend where I could take time to make this video. Anyway, but enough about me. Let's update you guys on Norsden Land. I've been really busy, especially with Norsden Land Antarctica. Busy in a simple-minded sense, not like I've been deriving crazy equations kind of thing. I don't have any real mind energy for that. But anyway, so switch to Google Earth. So we'll start here. Basically, you have Norsden Land as I described it. I'm not sure if I showed you guys this or not, but it's so great it's worth spending or showing twice. So this is a transposed map of Norsden Land with railroads up. So the railroads are color coded. We have the transcontinental is red, the southeast is blue, the forest coastline is purple, the central bay line is green, the northern frontier line is black, and the southwest line is gold colored. So that's basically that. But you can't zoom in on anything. You zoom in, the only thing you're going to see is a bunch of green. Well, I'm not sure if I showed you guys this, but it's worth doing twice. I now have Google Norsden Land. If we bring that up, you can now see the entire map that we made using the first satellite imagery of Norsden Land, which is incredibly accurate. Observe. So we're going to go all the way in on New Venice this time. And the small yellow dots at regular intervals that you can see are torches. So that can give you an idea of just how resolved these images are. They're actually, if you consider a torch as 1 by 1 meter, they're actually are resolutions better than a Landsat. So it's a little bit unrealistic in that sense. Or you could call it totally realistic if you considered that the Earth wasn't the right size. But then all the equations break, and that's not fun. So you can actually see, this is my railroad station. Here's one of the tracks down there. I presume this is another track that's kind of blended in. Here is the big factory and server. This is the airship. Some of the things that aren't recognized by this program show up as pink. Here's the Capitol building, my smaller boat, the bigger boat, the freighter, and I think I have, if we go down to the Space Center, we can now see, yes, there it is, the destroyer I currently have parked. Here's the railroad that you use to get around the Space Center. Here's all the launch pads, 10, 30, yeah. 20, no, hang on, 10, 30, 20, and 40. There we go. And here is the B1 that we use. We have our spaceflight tracking and data network, and you can see the runways and everything here. So a few other highlights to mention. This is Route N1. It now goes coast to coast from south to north, kind of like Route 1 in the United States. The orange here is a main railway line. I'm not sure why it changes to a gold color when going out into the... that's kind of interesting why it does that. That might be a blending effect that Google Earth uses to change to JPEG. But basically I can actually go all the way up the coast and make this another Norsden Land tour. So right here at the coast you can actually see it starts on a grassy area and boat ramp. Literally goes all the way up. You can actually follow it through the forest. It goes up beyond Route A1 here, which goes to the Space Center, through the Alstat territory, up into the Mid-Adium section. There it is going through Buzzicundra Beach, up across the Great Harbor Bridge, beyond New Venice, beyond our airport, up into North Dune, around Crescent Beach, through a harbor tunnel there, back onto the North Dunes again. Actually, this I believe is Crescent Moon Beach. As you can kind of see, the beach forms like a moon crescent. Continuing up through the northern hardwood forest then, and into the northern territories, and eventually into the woods near Forest, all the way up to the top of Forest Coast. And this is the other opposite end here on the north end of Forest Coast, and it took a lot of energy to build, but it's done. A few other things that are of note are Moon River Town. So here is Moon River Town. Here's the railroad coming through it. This is a shared line between 1 and 4. Here's the 4 line. Here's the 1 line coming together. And here they are splitting 4, 1. And then you keep going. So now the redwoods don't show up right. So they actually show up as, well, red, or technically magenta. You can also see W45 snaking its way through the mountains there. We have Westport, Gigapolis. I think I didn't start on anything in Gigapolis. There's a big old manor house that I wanted to build there, but it's 12 floors, and if you count the 4 levels of basement, so it's going to be very difficult to make. And then, of course, up here we have a little bit of issues with compactness due to the round thing. I believe this lake here is Trident Lake, but I'm not 100% sure. And then somewhere we should be able to find the northern frontier line. There it is, making its way through the wilderness. And should be, yep, right next to the, I believe, yeah, this is Tundra Gate. And it's called Tundra Gate because, well, you leave the station, you walk out here, and now you're onto the tundra. And these lakes would actually be frozen now at this time of year because it's the... Well, actually, we can figure that out. It's the 11th month, so that's November. So we're going to be looking at things between latitude 65 and 55. That's basically the central tundra areas on Norsden Land, and that will actually tell us, let me get the longitude right, about 145 west. That actually will tell us, using the next program, what the temperature is, and then we can determine if that's frozen or not. So this is Google Norsden Land. So now the other thing that I've been working on is Norsden Land Antarctica. I've been cataloging several things down here, and so basically here's the general shape of Norsden Land Antarctica. But if I zoom in, you really can't see anything. It's just all white. I mean, you don't know what that is. So now the advantages are knowing a NASA website called earthdata.nasa.gov /worldview, I think it is. Yep. And I've been able to produce maps of Norsden Land, Antarctica. So let's see if I can open one of these without crashing something. So we want the labeled version. And this is going to take a while because it's like 30 megabytes. But you can kind of see here, I've outlined Norsden Land, Antarctica. So this is all Antarctica. Here is the coast. We own everything out to the coast. This vertical line here represents the 180th degree parallel. So we own everything to that line where it disappears. And then this arc here represents the 89th south parallel, which, as per the rules set forth in one of my Norsden Land episodes, nobody owns below the 89th parallel. So this is all free game here. And then out in here is our eastern border. So we own everything below this red line and below this red arc here. That's in this area. So this is Norsden Land, Antarctica as it appears whole. It's a lot easier to see. But now if we can start opening up some areas. We set up shop in Armour Peninsula, as you remember from, was it My Kingdom for a Cactus? Anyway, I don't know what the difference between these two maps are, actually, if I just didn't bother to label it. But anyway, I landed the Norsden Land A340 on this ocean ice, as you guys might remember. If you haven't seen it, check out the video. It's really cool. I make like 3 passes before actually settling down. And then I constructed a ice igloo on the ice, as you can recall from Minecraft. And that was the first one we set up. But there's 4 more places that I'd like to set up. The second one is at the King Edward VII Peninsula, and that would be on this area here. So this would be a base that mainly is investigating the environmental effects of high altitude, mid-latitude, at least when it comes to Antarctica, because this is 77.5 degrees south, but it's still mid-latitude when you talk about Antarctica. Low latitude would be like 60 degrees. So the third one is a training ground. It actually doesn't have a name, and I'm looking for it right now. There it is, Base 81. It actually doesn't have a name right now because it's just in the middle of the ice plains. It's kind of like a proving ground for scientists and researchers hoping to get to the southern border station. It's less harsh and less isolated than the one near the South Pole. And it's a little bit better weather, but it basically investigates low-level central Antarctica weather, or it will, at least when I set it up. So this is at the coordinates 81 south, 130 degrees east. Moving south, the next one is high latitude, high altitude, a base in the Horlick Mountains. And I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to build it, but I want to build it quite near the top. So that would be somewhere around this ridge here. That is basically to investigate what it's like at mountaintops near the South Pole. So the coordinates for this guy are at 85.5 south, 122 degrees west. And then the furthest south base of all is the southern border base, which is at the 89 degrees south, and this basically investigates what weather is like at the South Pole. Dead center Antarctica, completely blocked by mountains, which prevents warm air from the high latitudes from getting in here. And this basically stays ice-locked for the entire year. So that brings us to the next thing, which is our compiled temperatures for Norsden Land, Antarctica, which are right here. So using a website, which I will show you in a minute, called earth.nullschool.net, I was able to basically investigate every single day, well, at least every day that I remember to at least, and measure the temperature and the feels like temperature, or kind of misery index as it's called, of the different 5 stations. So these temperatures are both in degrees Fahrenheit. This is the actual air temperature, and this is the feels like temperature. So you can see generally the Armor Peninsula and Edward VII Peninsula are the warmer areas. 81st is kind of flipsy, warm, cold. Horlick is cold, and southern border is ridiculously cold. There are some days when the feels like temperature at the southern border is more than minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So there is a lot of that's almost liquid, not liquid nitrogen temperatures. That's like minus 325 degrees Fahrenheit. But anyway, extremely low temperature things that can be recorded there. But basically, as I scroll down, you can kind of see here minus 112. I forget what the exact record is. The air temperature can get pretty cold too. Somewhere in here, I actually missed it for like a day, but then I didn't. There it is. There you go. So on the 9th, for some reason I didn't record the data, but I do remember seeing temperature. Oh, that's why. I hadn't recorded the temperatures, but I went back into the records and looked at minus 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Actual air temperature at the southern border with a feels like of minus 115. That's as cold as I've ever seen it. But you can kind of see, no matter what happens, the Armor Peninsula can go from like minus 15 in the winter to, in the spring, plus 15, plus 20. But the southern border always stays cold. The warmest it's been is like minus 20, and relatively not too long ago it's been at minus 50 with minus 80 feels like. So what does earth.nullschool.net look like? Well, I can give you a quick tutorial. Okay, welcome to earth.nullschool.net. If you're seeing this, hopefully you're seeing the global wind patterns on the Earth. So the animation, which is the little lines tracing across the Earth, are the wind directions, and the coloration is the wind speed. So you can't see anything like that, so if we click on Earth, it'll open up our menu, and then you can see a scale. So in order to actually read this thing, you have to hover over it. So the dark blue would obviously be 0 knots. The full speed would be 195 knots. And yes, that kind of wind exists. And I will show you that in a minute. And the next feature is you basically click anywhere you want on the Earth and it will give you the wind speed. So let's see down here at the Drake Passage. If I click here, the wind speed at the ground is 50 knots. So that's almost hurricane force winds. And I'm also going to look at the waves in a minute to show you guys that. But this is the surface. We can actually go all the way up to the jet stream. So this would be about 34,000 feet in altitude. And now you can see a jet stream cutting across from west to east across the North American continent with speeds up to 176 knots. And there you can see where we get up near the end of the scale. That's almost all the way up. Now if we go all the way up to 100,000 feet, you can now see, ooh, this is interesting. Oh, it's starting to break. That's interesting. So I've been looking at this thing since July, and every July there's been a very strong triangle here that's unbelievably strong. I call it the southern polar jet. I'm not sure if that's the actual name for it or if it even has a name, but that's what I've been calling it. It's been up around 190 knots, and now it's actually slowing down and falling apart. There was no such thing at the northern hemisphere. However, today, when I look on it, yes, there is actually a northern polar jet forming. That's actually really interesting, and I'm happy I went on here today because I wouldn't know that. Months ago, this was completely, it looked like the jet stream. Not even like that. It looked more like this, but at high altitudes. So there you go. When you hear about the North Polar Vortex, if you live in North America and you have a dip down, that's basically what it is. It's this thing bringing colder air, I think, and it basically sends the cold air pockets through there. Now this is very high up, so that would be lower down. So that would matter if you were down there. If you wanted to circumnavigate the globe, this would be a great band for you to ride through because it goes all the way across at a nice speed of 55 knots. So that's well faster than driving. So the next thing that I wanted to do is demonstrate the different projections. So if you click E, then it'll go to the equirectangular projection. And let's go to the surface. So there is the global map of all of the wind speed patterns on today, November 1st. Now if we click temperature, then it's going to display the active temperature on the Earth at any place. So let's say this hot spot in South America is 95 degrees Fahrenheit, or this cold spot in Greenland is minus 34. Or how about right now, Norsden Land, Antarctica, at the southern base, which is at 147 degrees, that's 80, 70, 60, 50, 147, and 89 degrees south, should be right about there. 138, maybe I was off by 10. There we go. 89, perfect. So right now, at the southern, or what will be the southern border base of Norsden Land, Antarctica, the actual air temperature is minus 49 degrees Fahrenheit. If we press MI, it'll give us the misery index, feels like minus 79. And now you can see all the comfortable spots on Earth. The comfy spots are basically black. The red feels hot, the blue feels cold, the red could cause, or the gold could cause heat stroke, and the blue could, or the white could cause excessive frostbite. So let's take a look at the scales first of all. The temperature scale is unbelievably wide. The cold end is at minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit, or we can actually switch this. The maximum is 131 degrees Fahrenheit. So now if I click on F, then I can get Kelvin, and if I click it again, I can get C. So for you Celsius people out there, the low end of the scale is minus 80 Celsius, and the high end is 55 Celsius. So the coldest temperature on Earth is minus 135, so it's actually going to go through the bottom of that scale if it's a record-setting day, and the warmest temperature was 137 degrees recorded in Libya, so it would go off the high end of that scale there. So let's go to the misery index, and you can see the ranges. So at least for me, it varies from person to person, but this declares it feeling as cold if the air temperature is below 43 degrees Fahrenheit. And I would agree that that's probably right, because that's generally when I turn the heater on in my house, when the outside air temperature feels like that. On the other end of the scale, it starts to turn red around 80 degrees, which I think is probably really realistic. I tend to complain when it starts hitting 80 degrees. It turns gold at 104 degrees, and it turns white at 124 degrees. It will turn the other white at minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. And just because I know there are people out there that use Celsius, I wish I could, but I really need 3 digits of Celsius. If they made Celsius 1,000 degrees, for example, if this said, instead of minus 29.4, if it said minus 294, I would go buy it, because you need 3 digits of precision, because people can feel temperature differentials down to about 1 degree Fahrenheit. So if you say it's 17 Celsius, well then I'm going to be like, okay, either it's 50, either it's 62 or it's 64, or somewhere in between there. And I can't make up my mind. So that's actually one of the reasons why I use kilometers but not Celsius. I'm picky that way. The blue line is 6 degrees Celsius, the red line is 27 Celsius, the gold line is 40 degrees Celsius, and the white line is 50-ish. We'll call it 51 degrees Celsius. So now we can actually go to the ocean, and here's where I wanted to see my wave heights. So now we can see wave heights in meters. So if I go here, the wave height is 12 meters, or in feet, 39 feet. So you would not want to be piloting a ship through the Drake Passage now. That would be pretty scary. If you guys remember the latest hurricane to come through, I believe it was Joaquin in the North Atlantic. I was looking at sea heights there, and I think I saw um, sea heights of 46 feet, and a ship was actually believed to have sunk as a result of the storm. You can't really do much with 46-foot wave heights. That's going to just sink any ship and get over whatever deck you're going to give it. So that's that. Now if I click SST, that'll give us the sea surface temperature. So now we can investigate what the high... Whoa, that's hot. So you can see here right away, 31 degrees, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the warmest spot in ocean water on the Earth. Now you can also see, all of a sudden, the waves stop. And the reason the waves stop is because of the sea-ocean ice. Or not the sea-ocean ice. The surface ocean ice. So the waves stop because it hits those areas which are full of small icebergs, and the waves just fizzle out. There's a few areas where it can approach the coast of Antarctica, but mostly it's not there. So I wouldn't want to swim if I were in around England, because the water is about 55 degrees. Likewise, if you were in New York, it's about 62 degrees, but hey, if you take a plane to Florida, it's now 83 degrees. Let's see if there's anything else worth going over. Yeah, we can do air temperature again. So air temperature, you can also do at multiple heights. So if we go to 1,000, that's basically 300 feet above the Earth. That's basically what the air temperature is, not counting whatever the ground might throw back into the air for the most part. If we go up again, the 850 millibar pressure line is about 5,000 feet. So one of the very interesting places to do that is in the Caribbean, for instance. So let's say we pick an island like Puerto Rico. It's a nice, comfortable 83 degrees. You go up to 5,000 feet, and I say this to all the people, or all the time, it's 65 degrees. If I complain about it being hot, I always say I wish I could just make a balloon and go up to 5,000 feet, because 85 becomes 65, 100 becomes 80. It's very comfortable there. So at 10,000 feet, the Caribbean is at 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And now you can see up at the mid and high latitudes, they're already down below zero. So here is 18,000 feet. This is where you enter Class A airspace. We're now below freezing, 16 degrees Fahrenheit. We go up to 34,000 feet, the jet stream. The lines you see here represent the wind patterns, but the colors, the temperature. Well, now we're in Norsden Land, Antarctica territory, minus 43, and it will keep going down. If we go up higher, minus 99 degrees Fahrenheit at an altitude of 50,000 feet. Jeez, that's chilly. That is colder than Norsden Land, Antarctica has ever been by our records. But then you enter the stratosphere, and I believe you should see warmer temperatures. So this is what 100,000 feet looks like. Yes, minus 42 degrees Fahrenheit. There's also a wind reversal. The winds kind of shift patterns. But there you go. So let's just take a look one more time and get our bearings. Let's see if those lakes are going to be frozen. So between 65 and 55 at 145 degrees west. So you can actually navigate around. This is an equirectangular. So let's go to surface. Sorry, voice crack. And we want 145 west. And I understand that there's ocean here, so it doesn't exactly work completely. But I'm just curious to see what it is in that area. So this should be 65, yep. So anywhere between 12 and 55 is 48. However, we can assume that we're going to be going by land temperature, so we can go over here. And that'll give us a more accurate readout. So anywhere between 29 degrees and like minus 2 degrees. By the way, for you Santa enthusiasts out there, at the North Pole right now, it is 8 degrees. A few days ago it was -3. Around Christmas time, I think it goes down to about -30, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to find out because I have never seen it around that time of year before. So yeah, those lakes are probably in the process of freezing up right now. We can just go back a day to make sure it wasn't a cold spell. That's what these arrows do, is they'll bring you back a day in time. It seems to have a loading issue right now. Sometimes that happens. You just got to deal with it. If it persists... if it persists, get a Mac. No, we'll just reload. Oh, interesting. So maybe there was a problem with the satellites on that day. Yeah, I'm going to say that it's a problem with the satellites. Alright, so yeah, it's cold for more than 2 days. So, oh, okay. Maybe it's just being stupid. Yep, it's cold, so those lakes are going to be frozen. Frost covered and frozen. So that's that. And unless there's anything else that I want to do, let's pull over Norsden Land, Antarctica, and see what that's doing right now. So we can see actually real-time weather patterns in Norsden Land, Antarctica. Here's exactly the effect that I was talking about in terms of why the 89 South base is locked. So if I go to that right there, the green circle right in the center is where base southern border will be. So this area up on Antarctica that I'm going to outline with my cursor here, from here all the way out to here is basically the ice brick of the world. During Antarctic winter, this entire area from like here to here in a crescent shape is generally this blue color, and anywhere around -70 C or about -90 Fahrenheit. That's basically the source of all the cold air in Antarctica, or all of the coldest air rather. And it all flows off the back and spirals out in this kind of fashion here. So the reason the southern border base is cold is because you get these wind patterns, which are unbroken, that flow off these ridiculously cold areas. Right now, that spot is -83 Fahrenheit, and if you follow the wind patterns, it's delivering it right to the Norsden Land, Antarctica southern border base. And that is exactly why it gets so cold, and coupled with a 18 kilometer per hour or, come on, math, 11 mile per hour wind, that makes you feel even colder. And now you can see here, this line here is the Transantarctic Mountains, through which area of Norsden Land, Antarctica is the Horlick Mountain chain. So you can see the cold air penetrates to the mountains, and then it just will go sideways, like here and here. And that's when it starts to warm up. So on the other side of the mountains, on the southern side of the mountain, it's -45. On the northern side, it's -26. And you can also see these warmer temperatures here are forcing their way down here. So what we typically find is anything north of here can go warm. Anything south of here will never go warm. So that's basically that. Okay, I'm going to give a few more features before I terminate this update. So let's demo a few more of these. Some of these projections I absolutely hate. This one, you would think I would have said that. This one's a little bit confusing, but it's really cool. I think W3... Okay, this is the one that I hate. It's an equal area projection, so all the continents are the right size as compared with each other. But the amount of shape distortion is just irritating. Like, for example, New Zealand, and then you just say, well, the world just ends here. It's just confusing. My mind can actually convert rectangular to spherical much better than this thing can, because I'm like, okay, well, How much is the curvature here? It just confuses me. Was it the WB? I thought. Oh, no, it's this one. Yes, this is the one that the United Nations use, and it's one of my favorites because you can use it to describe polar. It's a polar projection, so you can use it to describe over the pole activities. So if there was activity going on between Russia and Canada, then you would want to look at it on this projection. However, the area is completely messed up because for some reason Australia is bigger than Asia and Africa, and Antarctica is bigger than basically the entire world as it is. But that's an interesting way to describe it. Okay, so let's go to forget what A is. Oh yeah, that's the Atlantis projection. Oh yeah. Okay. No, this is the one that the UN uses. But I still like the other one better. Okay, so let's go back to equirectangular. If you don't like that, I'm sorry. Let's CE again. Oh yeah, cylindrical. This one is a little bit more confusing for me, but the equirectangular just, I mean, it's so easy. I mean, here's 90, here's the equator, here's a quarter of the way around, here's half the way around, here's all the way around, and all of this wraps, and this stuff up here will compress. I do it all the time with Norsden Land maps. Anyway, to my point, there are other things that we can display here. If we can actually display the surface pressure, and this will actually, let's go to, right now it's displaying torr. I'd like to, there we go. Hectopascals, that's what I like. So we can actually go all the way up to 105 kilopascal and all the way down to 92 kilopascal, depending on the specifics of the pressure. So what I've noticed is, for the most part, the oceans, especially this part in South Atlantic, I've never seen it go low pressure or high pressure, and the land is generally low pressure. Or actually, well, this is lower, but it's still kind of, 101, yeah, 1013. Yeah, the purple's low pressure. Red is like stormy low. Which, by the way, this is what's responsible for creating all those high waves. There's also relative humidity. If you guys hate humidity like I do, well, the brown spots are for you. 18%, 12%. I think the lowest I've seen is like 6%. That's real dry. That's nosebleed dry. These nasty areas are 100% humidity. Wow. Russia is really humid. I'd not like to be there. And the blue spots are in between. Like Scandinavia is 81%, 80%. Yeah, that's in the middle. It's normal for the poles to be very humid and the equator to be dry. But then there's other areas like South America. 92% humidity. I'm going to bet that the air temperature down there's probably upwards of 85 degrees. Okay, it's 82 degrees, but whatever. Alright, so we can also display chemical movements around here. Note that this is a logarithmic scale that goes from 0.08 parts per million volume all the way up to 2.5 parts per million volume. And oh my gosh, Delhi, what the heck is going on there? That in China both. Oh my gosh. You talk about smog in China, that's why. I'm actually surprised the Northeast United States and Europe don't look that bad. And I'm running out of time, so I'm going to keep rolling with this. This is sulfur dioxide, so we can go from 0 micrograms per cubic meter all the way up to 820, and that's a lot. I believe this is caused by automobile exhaust in factories, which explains why the whole United States is much more built up with that stuff. Then there's particulates. This is dust, mainly comes from the Sahara, but not 100% all of the time. And this is sulfur, some sort of aerosol, which is caused by factories. Anywho, we're out of time. Thank you guys for joining me, and I hope that we will get on the road soon with surf mission. See you guys next time. Bye.